This is the Love Series, 14 poems in 14 days to celebrate Valentine's Day. A love poem is a category of poem, or perhaps a genre of poem, but it does not necessarily communicate the emotional state of the poem. And that is something that we will explore maybe in depth today as we go through A Love Song by William Carlos Williams. Welcome to Strip Cover Lit, where we squeeze the bigger picture out of literature. I'm Adrian Fort, and we are here for another poetry discussion, which will appear in two separate playlists here on the channel. Number one being the poetry discussion playlist, cruising towards 630 videos strong, but also the Love Series, 14 poems in 14 days to celebrate Valentine's Day and love poetry in general here on the channel. As stated, A Love Song by William Carlos Williams is the poem in question today, and it reads as such. What have I to say to you when we shall meet? Yet I lie here thinking of you. The stain of love is upon the world, yellow, yellow, yellow. It eats into the leaves, smears with saffron the horned branches that lean heavily against a smooth purple sky. There is no light, only a honey-thick stain that drips from leaf to leaf and limb to limb, spoiling the colors of the world. I am alone. The weight of love has buoyed me up till my head knocks against the sky. See me. My hair is dripping with nectar. Starlings carry it on their black wings. See, at last, my arms and my hands are lying idle. How can I tell if I shall ever love you again as I do now? The first poem in this series, Awake Ye Muses 9 by Emily Dickinson, was a poem that dealt with a very youthful and exuberant and perhaps naive idea of love. This poem does not. This love is worn, both in terms of being worn, a love poem that is worn as it is tried on. It is a tried-on type of love. Worn threadbare, perhaps. It is also a weighed-down type of love. One that is expressed as a honey-thick stain that spoils colors. Down here, what a fantastic way of the stain of love is upon the world. Weighing down the branches. It is a honey-thick stain, spoiling colors. All of these things express an idea of love that is not light, that is not exuberant, that is not easy, that is not simply happy, simply joy-inducing. Not that type of love, something separate from that entirely. And certainly, this love is about a forlorning nature of love. I think it is probable, even, that this type of love is an unrequited love. We have the speaker stating very clearly, I am alone, period. I am alone, full stop. I am alone with this love. There is no duality to this love. It is singular. It is, I think, easy to see this as an unrequited love poem. But in that, there is, I think, some question raised. Is our speaker, and I will use William Carlos Williams was a man. I will use the he referring to the speaker simply for ease of use through this poem, though I don't think it is necessarily, I don't think there's any gender necessary to this poem. I think that this could be very easily either way here, looking at the idea of love. But is our speaker stuck on an ex? Is our speaker longing for his ex in this poem? Or is our speaker in love with someone with whom he has not been, having been with someone sort of in the biblical sense there? I don't know that we necessarily have a definitive answer, but I think that it is possible to read this poem in either way. What have I to say to you when we shall meet? You can see this on one hand as being stuck on an ex, in that you're going to see your ex. You're going to pass them in the supermarket. You're going to run into them at the Starbucks, whatever it is, you're going to see them. And here, our speaker would be laying there wondering, how do I address this? Do I address my former lover with familiarity? Do I address my former lover with a cold sort of distance, the dichotomy between us being growing as time goes on? Or is this the poem of an unrequited love with whom our speaker has not had those relations? What have I to say to you when we shall meet? I am thinking very hard about what I'm going to say to you when we run into each other, because I want that type of relationship with you. I want to be closer to you. Either way, with either of those readings, this entire poem makes sense. The stain of love is upon the world, yellow, yellow, yellow. It eats into the leaves, smears with saffron the horned branches that lean heavily against a smooth purple sky. There's nothing in there that indicates to us one way or another. There is no light, only a honey-thick stain that drips from leaf to leaf and limb to limb, spoiling the colors of the world. Both of these stanzas kind of say that what we have is an idea of love, or a state of love that is paralyzing, that is causing the speaker here to be weighed down. That's all that we have here. Then we have, I am alone. The weight of love has buoyed me up till my head knocks against the sky. Again, there's nothing here that tells us one way or another whether this love has been exercised or is still hypothetical. Simply, the assertment from our speaker that he is alone. This seems to be, in my opinion, an aloneness that is lonely. One does not have to be lonely to be alone. One does not have to be alone to be lonely. Here, our speaker is both. But the fact that this stanza exists in this poem communicates to me that the reason our speaker is alone is because of the beloved. Nothing the beloved necessarily has done to the speaker, but by choice from our speaker. Our speaker does want love with that individual and seemingly no one else. See me. My hair is dripping with nectar. Starlings carry it on their black wings. See, at last, my arms and my hands are lying idle. This goes further into that idea of loneliness. Our speaker here is reaching out, crying out, calling out for nothing more than that attention. See me. My hair is dripping with nectar. Starlings carry it on their black wings. See, at last, my arms, my hands are lying idle. I am making no great effort to perturb you. I just want your attention. My arms and hands are lying idle, ready to be in embrace. My arms and hands are lying idle, wishing to have the beloved. My arms and hands are lying idle, hoping for that relationship, that embrace, hoping for the other. How can I tell if I shall ever love you again as I do now? This, I think, at first reading, at first blush, would be easy to conflate as the speaker saying, I have loved you before. We have shared this love before. How will I know if we will love each other in that way should our paths cross again? I don't think that is necessary. I think it's in there. I think you can read it that way. How can I tell if I shall ever love you again as I do now? But I don't think it's necessary. I don't think that it is implied in the general reading of this poem. I think that it is something that we can question because put yourself in that position. Surely you have had a crush on someone that you have not talked to. You have noticed someone that you think, I could be in a relationship with that person. I notice things in their personality, the way they handle themselves, things like this, that you would be good with that person. Probably, if you know that emotion, if you know that feeling, if you know that state of being, you have been there with several people during the course of your life, people who you have had some crush on, people you have wanted to know in some way, and it's never materialized. That being the case, this stanza makes perfect sense. These ideas of the crush, of the longing of the heart, wanting to love someone, and copy pasting that love on different people is a real portion of the human experience. It's also something that, think back to a time in your life where that has been true, where you have had eyes on someone, where you have directed your attention towards someone, where you have wanted someone's, where you have wanted at least the experiment with that individual that would this work. Think 2 people ago. Think 3 people ago, right? How can I tell if what I am feeling really is that thing, really is love, really would be experienced in that way between the 2 of us? That being true, that being the case, you have to wonder whether or not what you're feeling is something that is legitimate, whether what you're feeling is something that would be real or true. What is truth? What is truth in love? How can I tell if I shall love you, stranger, tomorrow the way that I crush on you today? How can I tell that I will, stranger, want this thing between us tomorrow the way that I want it today? How can I tell, stranger, that should we run this experiment, there is not something that is dangerously combustible between the 2 of us? You are, after all, not in my life. How can I tell that there's not something fundamental about your character or your pursuits that would ultimately be our destruction as a couple? I don't know which way I read this poem. Whether this is a poem about the X that has left our heart heavy, or whether this is about the stranger I dare not approach for fear of rejection. Either of those readings, in my opinion, is very valid of this poem. Either of those readings, in my opinion, the truth of that situation, I think, whether you were reading this poem going through a breakup, with your heart still pinned to someone from your past, or whether you were reading this poem with your heart pinned to someone hypothetical, you would find your voice in this poem. You would find truth to this poem. That is all I have for this poetry discussion. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other literature lovers. If you find yourself here by chance but not design, literature is the only thing I talk about on this channel, dropping multiple videos every single week. There's poetry every Monday, and I hope to have you back for the next one.